They're heading there, and heaven is on the other side, and the difference will be words. Words about your cross, words about your grace, words about your love. And Father, I just pray that you will take words and use words in a way that are just beyond what a message can even do. So Holy Spirit, you got free reign to work through this message, to work through these words, and to guide and to shape what people hear. And just ask, Father, as we hear your message, that it will change who we are. Thank you for this church. Thank you for these people. Thank you, Lord, for the love. Thank you for the grace that you're showing to them. Bless them, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You be seated. We've been eating a lot of apples lately at the house, and it was back the first end of the year, end of last year. In December, I bought a bunch of apples at the house, and I have them setting it as a bowl on the table. It's probably not the best place to put apples. I find that they just don't seem to last as long as we keep them cool. But we put them on the table, and the kids are grabbing. We got different kinds of apples. There were some green ones there, and some Granny Smiths. There were some red ones there. We had some were a little softer, some were a little harder. And one day I was looking at these apples, and I thought, hey, I need to make an apple pie with them. They were just coming to that place where cutting them up and eating them wasn't quite as appetizing. I thought, if I put these things into a pie, the kids will eat it. They don't really like it. So I took the different kinds of apples and I cut them up. And I wanted a crumble top on the pie, and so I put the crumble top, made that all up, put the cinnamon and the sugar and the nutmeg, and made the crust. I made the crust, Mom. I made that crust that day. She makes fun of me because I buy crust most of the time. I made that crust that day. Put it in the pie pan, filled it full of the apples, put the crumble top on it, and put it in the oven. And 50 minutes later, you can that smell of apple pie just begins to fill the house. And I took it out and I set it on the counter, and it was set there for a couple of hours before dinner was going to be served. We had dinner, and after dinner was over, I went and I cut the pie. And I got some ice cream out of the freezer, and I took and put a scoop of ice cream on the kids' piece of pie. And as I put the ice cream on the pie, this memory just floods over me. I remember my grandma Spurlock. On Sundays, we would go to Rochester to my grandma's, and every Sunday she had dinner for us. And after we got done at church, we'd go back to the house, and there would usually be apple pie to eat. And she would take that scoop of ice cream, and she'd stick that scoop of ice cream on the pie for us, and it would begin to melt. And all of a sudden, I'm sitting there, and I've got these tears running down my cheeks as I'm thinking about Grandma Spurlock. It was like, oh my gosh, the love, the care that went into making the pie for me to have pie on Sundays. And it got me thinking about the lake house we had up there with my grandma and grandpa. And got me thinking about Grandpa, and he'd go to sit down and eat dinner, and he'd take his teeth out of his mouth to eat dinner. All those memories just start flooding. You ever live a life like that where there's something that just begins to cause memories to flow and to flood? Maybe it's a piece of clothing, maybe it's a smell, maybe it's something that catches your eye, maybe it's a date on the calendar, but in an instant we remember. We begin to remember. It is good to be reminded of what God has done. It is good for us to remember. I hope in our spiritual life that there are things that remind us what God has done in our life. I hope when people walk into the waters of baptism, you see somebody being baptized, you go, oh my gosh, I remember the day that I walked into the waters of baptism. I remember the day that the pastor poured water on me. I hope that there are reminders in our lives of the great things that God has done for us. Today, I want to tell a story today that comes out of John chapter 21. Grab your Bibles because it's a very, very long story. But the whole story is really important. It's John chapter 21. It's a story of reminders. It's a story of being reminded of memories. This story in John 21 is filled with visual pictures and reminders and smells and tastes that all flood into the life of Simon Peter. That all flood over him. Now, this is kind of an interesting piece of scripture, John 21. Theologians that are curious as to where the Gospel of John really ended. They're curious as to where John finished his story at. Most of us just accept the fact that, well, he finished it with John 21, probably with verse 25. But it's interesting, in verse 24 of John 21 says these words. This is the disciple who testifies to these things and who wrote them down. We know that his testimony is true. Do you talk about yourself like that? We know that his testimony is true. And so it's caused a little bit of questioning about where did the Gospel of John really end? Was there something that was added to the end of it? And then they go back to John 20, beginning verse 30. And it kind of sounds like a great ending. Jesus did many other miraculous signs in the presence of the disciples, which are not recorded in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and by believing you may have life in his name. Well, that's a great ending to a book, isn't it? But then there's a story. And they wonder. People wonder, why is this next story in the Bible? When did it get put there? Now, I tend to believe it's inspired by God, and John wrote it. But I wonder if John, coming to the end of his life, coming to the end of writing this book, we know he's in his 90s. We know that he's penned these words. You wonder if he came to the end and he said, you know what? There's one more thing. I need them to know one more thing. I can't not. It's like the preacher who just has to tell a story. You know, and John is at the end of this book. He's finished it up, and he's got to the end, and he goes, I need to tell them something. They need to know this. And so with one last story, he fills us in on something that is so important to us in our faith. So important for us to know what happens in the life of Peter. John 21, beginning verse 1. Afterwards, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Tiberias. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas called Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and two other disciples were together. I'm going out fishing, Simon Peter told them. And they said, we'll go out with you. So they went out and they got into a boat, but that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, and the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, throw your nets out on the right side of the boat, and you will find some. They did, and they were unable to haul in the net because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and he jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the nets full of fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish you had just caught. Simon Peter climbed aboard and dragged the net ashore. It was full of fish, large fish, 153. But even with so many fish, the nets were not torn. Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. None of the disciples dared to ask him, who are you? For they knew it was the Lord. Jesus came and took the bread and gave it to them. He did the same with the fish. This was now the third time that Jesus appeared to his disciples after he was raised from the dead. And when they finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you truly love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. I tell you the truth, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted, but when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone will dress you and lead you where you have nothing to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to Peter, follow me. Follow me. On the day of the resurrection, Jesus visited Peter in the upper room along with some of the other disciples. There was one was there. Remember, Thomas didn't show up at that event. We don't know where he was at, what was going on, but Jesus shows up. He's with them. And Jesus says to the disciples an interesting word. He says, shalom, peace. Peace be with you. And I'm pretty sure they weren't feeling a whole lot of peace at that time, right? It had been kind of a stressful time in the life of the disciples, and they didn't know what was up at that point in their life. And Jesus shows up on the scene, and he tells them to have peace. Peace be with you. And that word peace in Hebrew means go in harmony, go in prosperity, go in health, go in satisfaction, go in soundness, go in wholeness, go in total well-being. Peace and prosperity on the inside, peace and prosperity on the outside. May you be filled up, may you be lacking in nothing. And I am pretty sure that none of the disciples felt those words at that moment. I don't think they really felt peace. I'm not sure they really even understood what peace was like. Their life had been turned upside down. And where do we go from here? The one member who wasn't in the bunch, he did show up later, Thomas, and Jesus did reveal himself. And that was the second time that he revealed himself to the disciples. And now we're going to have a third time. But evidently between the second and the third time that Jesus shows up, Peter had had enough. We see these words at the end of beginning of chapter 1. He says, I'm going fishing. I'm going fishing. Evidently, Peter and some of their disciples were emotionally exhausted. They had spent 3 years with Jesus. It had been quite a ride, but now the ride felt like it was over. Things had been really tough, especially for Peter, who was the leader of the group, right? And he's kind of like the head honcho. He was the rock, the one who cut the right ear off the guard, the one who told Jesus he would die with him, the one who disowned him 3 times. It was tough. It's a tough day. And Jesus' 2 visits to Peter evidently had been difficult. And so he just wanted to just go back. Just go back. Ever been there where you just kind of want to go back to the way it was? Go back to things like they were before. You just go back. So sometimes going back is good. Sometimes memories and going back is a good thing. There's a lot of times that going back isn't quite so good. Sometimes our getting away isn't very healthy. We feel like a trip to the bar would help the situation when we know it won't. It's been years since you twirled a cigarette between your fingers, but it just was needed on that day. You run back to an old friend, you pick up a Snickers bar, 2 Big Macs at McDonald's and solve this problem. We've been there, we just kind of want to go back. Just want to go back. I don't think what was going on with these 7 was bad, but they just wanted to go back. Go back. Just forget the last 3 years. So Peter and James and John and Thomas and Nathaniel and these other 2 disciples who had been on this emotional roller coaster for so long, they just decided they were going to head back to the water and do a little fishing. Just a little bit of fishing. So they headed back to the Sea of Tiberias, which is the Sea of Galilee. But can I say today, once you've tasted the good life, you can't ever really go back. When you go back, there's always a reminder. There's always something in your head that's pulling at you, that's causing you to think. And the disciples had all of these thoughts, all of these smells, all of these tastes. Everything around them on the Sea of Galilee that day was a reminder to them. The disciples went to the Sea of Tiberias, and when they got there, they went to a spot that they had been to before. Spot where they had been called. They were back to the place where Jesus' base of ministry. They were back to the place where Jesus had healed people. Back to the place where Peter had been called. As Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw 2 brothers, slightly called Peter and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, where they were fishermen. Come follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. And once they left their nets, they followed him. It's been 3 years, but all of a sudden a picture shows up in Peter's mind. This is where it all started. Right here along this seashore, this boat, the sea air, the nets, they're all a reminder. And at that moment, they're all a reminder of failure. Everything about this event is a reminder of failure. Jesus had called Peter to fish for people, and now Peter had blown it. He had messed up. Could he ever go back? Could he ever come back to the calling that Jesus had put upon his life? The disciples, they got their gear ready. They pushed out from shore. They let down their nets, and there were no fish. No fish. Great. Here we go again. No fish. Oh, I remember that. I remember that night when there was no fish. I remember that day when Jesus told us to push out a little ways from shore. Luke chapter 5, verses 1 through 3. One day as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats who belonged to Simon and asked him to put out a little from shore. And he sat down and he taught the people from the boat. As the boat went from the shore, Peter remembered, it was about here. It's about here where we sat in the boat and Jesus taught the people. Then he had us push out into a little deeper water. He told us to let our nets down. The disciples had their nets down deep in the water, and it wasn't too long until this guy shows up along the side of the water. They didn't see who it was. They didn't know. They heard this words, "Yo, dude, catching anything?" "No, man, nothing." "Put your nets on the other side." When Jesus had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything, but because you say so, I will let down the nets." When he had done so, he caught such a large number of fish that the nets began to break. So they signaled to their partners in the other boat to come and help them, and they came. They filled both boats so full that the boats began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord, for I am a sinful man." Peter could see it. He could see the sin, He could see it. It wasn't the sin of childhood mistakes. It wasn't the sin of slipping and missing the mark as an adult. It was a day. It was an event. The day he said, "Jesus, if all else fall away, I will not fall away. I will die with you, Jesus." It was a lie. It was a story. It was bigger than any fish story that Peter had ever told. Peter was daydreaming, and the struggle began. Not the struggle in his mind. That struggle had been going on. It was a struggle for fish. Because right there in this net was a net filled with fish. So many fish that they couldn't get into the boat. Just like it happened in the same sea so many years ago. Lots of fish. 153 fish. Every species of fish known was 153 in those days. Peter realized something. The guy on the shore. It's Jesus. It's Jesus. The Bible says that John said, "It is the Lord." And Peter got up, he wrapped his clothes around him again, and he jumped out of the boat. That cold water was another wake-up call. A wake-up call from so many months earlier. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out with them, walking by the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it is you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. And Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came towards Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid and began to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." And immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why do you doubt?" And today he jumped out of the boat. How much quicker he could have gotten to Jesus if he could have ran on the water that day. But just like so many months earlier, he sank. One more time. One more time. Here I am, the leader of the 12, and I still can't walk on water. Here I am, the guy who pretended to be the greatest, and all I am today is wet behind the ears. All washed up. What hope is there for a guy like me? Hard swim. Finally got shallow water, pulled himself up, stood to his feet, and he looked right in the eyes of the man he loved so deeply. There in front of Peter was a meal, a common meal, nothing fancy, just some bread and some fish. Just bread and fish. Bread and fish. His mind just blows. All that day, because all those people, 5,000 of them, gathered around. Jesus was teaching, and the people were hungry, and we needed something to eat, and there was 5 loaves and 2 fish. Jesus said, had the people sat down, there was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there, and Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who received as much as they wanted. And he did the same with the fish. And when they all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, gather the pieces that are left over, let nothing be wasted. So they gathered them and filled 12 baskets with pieces of barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. 12 baskets full. 12 for each of the 12 disciples, but then there was 11. One had hung himself, and now 7 could join together for a day of fishing. And Peter wondered if he was still a disciple. Is he still a called one? While Peter was thinking, the rest of the crew shows up. Jesus tells him to get some of the fish to throw it on the fire. And Peter really hadn't noticed the fire. He hadn't really noticed the fire, what kind of attention it was. But when Jesus said, throw the fish on the fire, he looked and he saw. He saw that it was a charcoal fire. It's interesting, there's only 2 places in all of the Bible that talks about a charcoal fire. One of them was mentioned that I read earlier, John 21, verse 8. The other one is in John chapter 18. Peter stood outside the door, so the other disciples who knew the high priest went out and spoke to the servant girl who kept watch at the door and brought Peter in. The servant girl at the door said, Peter, you also are not one of the man's disciples, are you? He said, I'm not. Now the servant, the officers had made a charcoal fire because it was cold, and they were standing and warming themselves. Peter was also with them, standing and warming himself. Charcoal fire. One more smell. One more reminder. Denial 1. Denial 2. Denial 3. A rooster crows. Peter's ready to yell out, where's the chicken dinner? Where's the chicken dinner? There's got to be a rooster here somewhere, right? There's got to be a rooster here somewhere. I mean, the cliff that the demons ran off is right over there. And the home of my mother-in-law is right over there. And the place that I was called into ministry is right over there. There's the sea. There's the boat. There's the net. There's the catch. There's a shoreline. There's fish. There's bread. There's a fire. Everything was a haunting reminder of his past. And everything was a haunting reminder of his failure. And Jesus just had to say it. He just had to. Why could he not have said it? Why couldn't he just kept his mouth shut this one time and not said it? But he just had to go and point it out. And Jesus said, Simon, son of John, you love me? Simon. There it was, Simon. I mean, Peter's mother called him Simon. Peter's father called him Simon. But there was a day that Jesus quit calling Peter, Simon, Simon. It was the day that he started calling him Peter. Who do the people say that I am? Jesus asked. Some say John the Baptist, others Elijah, some one of the prophets from long ago. What about you? Who do you say that I am? And Simon spoke up. You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. And Jesus said, you are right. No longer will you be called Simon. Now you will be called Peter. For on this rock I will build my church. Peter means the rock. The rock. What did Simon mean? Simon means flat-nosed hearer. Flat-nosed hearer. It means a man with a reputation. A reputation. Yeah, for speaking up when you put your foot in your mouth. For declaring that you're the greatest when you're not. Reputation for saying you're going to be a Christ follower to the very end and then falling short. The guy who's just supposed to listen. Simon the hearer. Simon the hearer. Can't you hear Jesus? Listen, Simon. Listen, Simon. Listen to me. Just listen today, Simon. Will you hear my words today, Simon? Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? What a question. What's the these? these? Have you ever wondered what did Jesus point to? Do you love me more than the bread and the fish? Do you love me more than the boat and the sea? Do you love me more than the miracles that took place in your mother-in-law's house? Do you love me more than the 6 other guys sitting around the fire today? Do you love me more than these? Doggone it, he had to use that word for love. That word. There's lots of words that you can use for love if you're living in the first century speaking Greek. You can use the word Philadelphia, brotherly love. That'd be a good word. Do you have a brotherly love towards me, Simon? But that's not what he asked. You could have used the word phileo. Phileo means kindness. It means I like you a lot. No, that wasn't the word. He had to use that word. That word agape, that means self-sacrificing. The kind of love that Jesus showed when he washed the disciples' feet. The kind of love that God talked about when he sent his one and only Son to the world to die for people. The kind of love that Jesus showed that he hung on the cross. Simon, son of John, do you agape me? Do you love me more than all of these? Will you sacrifice yourself? Now, Peter wanted to say yes. He so badly wanted to say yes, but yet he knew who he was. And so he compromised. Yes, Lord, you know that I catch that phileo you. Jesus used agape, and then Peter responds with the word phileo. Yes, Jesus, you know that I like you a lot. At least Peter was honest that day. I mean, he had spent a lot of his time not being honest. And today he got honest with himself. I like you a lot. Jesus, I just like you a lot. Verse 16, he said to him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you agape me? He said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I phileo you. Yes, Lord, we just had this conversation, okay? I really wish that I could agape you. I really wish that I could sacrifice everything for you, but the best that I can do today is to say that I like you an awful lot. And then the third one. Simon, son of John, do you phileo me? It's one thing to tell Jesus in your mouth that you like him a lot. It's another thing for Jesus to look you in the eye and say, do you just like me a lot? The Bible says that it grieved him. It grieved Peter. Because he knew the reality. He knew the reality. At that moment in his life, the best he could do, the best he could offer, was to like Jesus a lot. It's all he could muster. It's all he could give. Three questions, 3 responses, 3 denials, 3 reminders, 3 second chances. Do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? If you love me, feed my lambs. If you love me, take care of my sheep. If you love me, feed my sheep. You see, Jesus knew. Jesus had reminders that day too. Peter wasn't the only one feeling reminders. Jesus knew. Jesus knew the water. Jesus knew the sand. Jesus knew the boat. Jesus knew the location. Jesus knew about the fish. Jesus knew about the charcoal. Jesus knew about walking on the water. Jesus knew everything about the last 3 years in Peter's life. And Jesus didn't care about the last 3 years. Jesus cared about Peter. He cared about the man. He had loved this man from the beginning of time. He knew what was in Peter's heart. He understood where he was at, and he called him anyway. In spite of what he had done, he called Peter anyway. He said, feed my lambs. Take care of my sheep. Feed my sheep. And if Jesus loves Peter this much, how much does he love you? If Jesus will use a guy like that, what will Jesus do with you? What could Jesus do with you? See, the best that Peter had to offer that day was, I like you a lot, Jesus. But the rest of the story, let's go back and make sure you catch the rest of the story. Jesus said, feed my sheep, verse 18, I tell you the truth, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted, but when you are old, you will stretch out your hands, and someone will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. You remember how Peter dies? Upside down on a cross in Rome, declaring that Jesus Christ is his Lord and Savior. And the whole story finishes with these words. And he said to him, follow me. Right where they were 3 years ago. Just follow me. Peter, just follow me. I don't know what's been going on in your life for the last 3 years. I don't know where you've walked, what you've done, where you've been, I don't know how bad it's been, or how good it's been. But no matter what your last 3 years have been like, Jesus looks you in the eye today and says, follow me. Follow me. Just follow me right where you are with what you've done. All I'm asking you today is just follow me. Thank you for calling people like us to follow you. Thank you for the story that John had. Because I think it's good for us to know today that when we mess up and when we fall short, and when we haven't been what you wanted to be, us to be, God, that you still call out to us. Thank you for not giving up on Peter. Thank you for not just saying, Peter, go get in that boat and fish for the rest of your life. Jesus, I want to thank you for showing up on the shore that day and calling him back into service. Lord, I pray for every man, every woman, every child in this place that they'll feel that same call upon their life today. You are not done with any of us. You're not done with any of us. You want a relationship with all of us. Sights and sounds and smells may remind us of our past. But Jesus, those same sights, those same sounds, those same smells remind you of our calling. May it remind us of our calling. To take whatever we've been through in life, Lord, and to use it for your kingdom and for your good and for your glory. We are a called out people. We are set apart. And you've got a great plan for our life. May we know what that plan is, Lord, and may we walk in it every single day. Remind us, Jesus. Remind us of the call. May we stand firm on the call. May we go out and make fishers of men. For it's in Jesus'